a friend of mine was told recently to bring her perpetrator to the police station so they can talk. I'm like, are you listening to yourselves? Are you serious? Like, okay, Larry, she should go back and say, hey, dude, so after you beat me up, I went to the police station and, well, they would like to see you. Like, what are you talking about? You know, like, so, no, seriously. So it's a real thing, and it's a big struggle. And it's not even just, it's not even a South Africa, Lesotho thing. I keep maintaining that it is an African crisis.
So what we're going to do now is we're going to talk about, I'd like us to discuss ways of doing better, right?
Yeah.
As the name of the show. And I think there's no better place to start than with men. Having been through what you've been through, having seen what you've seen, your mom is a social worker, so I would imagine you've heard stories. How can we as men do better? And I'm not just talking in terms of like, okay, I'm not a perpetrator, so what can I do better? Or how can I do better as a person who's not a perpetrator? But even in terms of loving our wives, loving our girlfriends, just as a man, how can I do better?
I think men need to collectively start coming together as men and asking themselves, how can we do better?
Ooh.
You know, men have the power. I also, you know, like how they always say when women come together, something happens, right? Yeah. Men also have equally the same amount of power, because the struggle that you'll find, what we have right now in today's society, is where men come together, true enough, but they come together for all the wrong reasons. They're not having the right conversations. They coming together to brag and to floss about things that they shouldn't be bragging and flossing about. They come together to promote infidelity within their relationships, within their marriages. They aren't having soulful building conversations with each other and say, how do I do better as a man?
Yeah.
So those are the first things I believe that collectively the conversation needs to begin with them, where they come together and start having conversations, start having the dialogue. And when they start to do better, then you'll see a lot of better will come from society, because then they will also start to raise their sons better. Boy kids love their moms, like they adore their moms, they protect their moms, they love their sisters, but then are unable to show the same kind of love to their girlfriends. I never understand why. But I feel like it's also in the ways that, or the environments in which they grew up in, where they were exposed maybe to seeing dad not speak nicely to mom, and it becomes normal for mom to be spoken to like that, or as much as they will still want to be the protective factor, but then emulate what dad taught them with their other relationships. They'll not treat mom with that. They will treat mom with respect, but fail to treat their girlfriends or their wives with the same level of respect. So it stems and it starts with the conversations that we have, but also in what we instill in the principles in our children, where our boy kids are taught from an early age to play nice with other kids, to not bully other kids, and not just bully girls, but bully in general, boys and girls. When we start teaching our children that they need to treat people with respect, it grows up with them. It's something that is innate in them. When you treat them to love, when you treat them not to hit, not to this, not to that. And where in some instances, because I know sometimes, I mean, obviously children are different. You do get situations where violence is the only thing a child kind of knows. That's the environment that he's grown up in. But men who see environments like that, taking that kid under their wing to say, hey, I'm gonna, you know, like how in America they've got the Big Brother program? Okay, so in America they've got this program. Hey?
I'm saying please shed light on that.
Okay, the Big Brother program basically is where older men take almost mentorship of younger guys in the project. So he's got a job, so he takes responsibility over this kid to show him the good. He takes him out of the projects to different environments and says, hey, in order just for him to see a different way of life, to see a different vision, he teaches him principles on like what, you know, a big brother does, or what, you know, so they start learning from these figures who are positive people in society, who grew up in the same environment as them, but are not that guy in the hood, you know. So there's that Big Brother program, which I think is absolutely a really, really amazing. But if we had like initiatives like that, that would be great. I know in Lesotho that there's a man that oh my goodness, why am I forgetting his name? Ooh. Can we add this information at some point?
We'll add it, no problem.
But he's got a similar program in Lesotho that he's running with young boys, just teaching them how to be men. You know, when Boyz II Men was growing up, I've always found that name fascinating. When we were growing up, listening to Boyz II Men and them, it was like, how do they become Boyz II Men? And then you start to realize in life that there is a chain of development. You have to grow from a boy to a man. But then what does it mean to be a boy to grow to a man? What are the responsibilities? What are the influences? What are the things that boys need in order to become men? You know, so those little things, little nuances, those are important contributors, I think, to the overall discussion where, you know, you start engaging and having conversations and asking what makes a man, what is a man, what defines a man, and then teaching young men to live up to those kind of principles.
Oh, okay. And okay, so this sort of just came to my mind. So there is on social media, there's a growing trend of, you know, women fighting back. By fighting back, I'm talking about, you know, your city girls. City girls are up. We don't give a flying fudge about nobody. We do what we want to do. It's all about us, you know? What are your thoughts on that? The reason I'm saying what are your thoughts on that is, on the one hand, it's like, okay, on the one hand, you could view it as like I was saying, women are fighting back. So we're gonna you know, take a stand and fight back. But on the other hand, it's like, is it really what? How do I put this? Is it really what is wanted or needed by not just the women but the men? I mean, I get where it's coming from, but I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
It's wonderful to be an independent woman. It's encouraged to be an independent woman. Just don't lose your morals for it. Because city girls, no fudge is given type situation, right? Whose values are decreased. When we look at the city girls vibe thing of things, is it a case of, is her integrity intact? Is her respect intact? You know? It's okay to be independent. It's encouraged to be independent. Do your own thing, but also do it maintaining a level of decorum about who you are. You don't, because that's when you lose your identity. You don't know who you are if that is who you are in one clip, and then the other clip you're somebody else. You need to know who you are. So I have no qualms with people living their lives and living their best lives, live it to the fullest. Yes, you do. Get that. Yeah, you know, but in the same breath, it's also a case of do it, but don't lose
who you are.
You know, trying to trying to appease and please other people. It has it's
yeah.
Yeah.
I get you. It just came to mind.
Like I almost feel like it depends on what a person's intentions are, and what it is you're hoping to ultimately gain from it. But like I always say, it's like you must keep your dignity intact as well. Yeah.
Okay. But like I said, it just came to mind. But moving away from that, I wanted to now move to society, family, and how we as a society can do better, how we as families can do better, because there is obviously a huge, for example, I mean, we know how in Lesotho, for example, there is like, excuse my language, but women have to put up with so much shit.
Yeah.
They're treated, like, no. So anyway, this is not about my thoughts on that. I'd like to hear from you.
We have you're right, where we say families of women whose no, I want to put this properly.
Okay.
Families, no. You see that we have a cultural thing where it was always a case of, but our parents, they Batista, they carried on. There's that air or spirit of no, you can do it. This too shall pass type of thing. But there's a difference between how maybe I feel like our grandfathers were not abusive, or our great grandfathers were not abusive. Do you understand? Because there's no way where a person and a parent should be able to tell you to stick it out. Our families fail us, because versus where my daughter is being beaten up and me pulling her out for the sake of peace sake and for the sake of reputation and families staying intact, it's a case of work it out. And until we start realizing, and unfortunately, it only becomes evident, and families only want to get involved when somebody's lost their lives.
Yeah.
That's the sad part. So I think in 2020, stepping into 2021, in 2021 and moving forward, families need to start being more proactive in addressing where they witness domestic violence. Be proactive in talking and encouraging the victim to speak out, showing that support, because a lot of the times I think women stay in those relationships because there isn't enough support. There isn't anybody saying to her, you deserve better, get out. Do you understand? Or saying, don't worry, you can come and live with me while you get yourself back together again. There's nobody giving her any support. People are saying, no, it will get better. But meantime, back at the ranch, things are not going so well. She's getting beaten to the pulp, and everybody knows about it, but nobody's talking about it. So I think families need to start actually being proactive, and where they are witness to ill treatment of anybody or an abusive environment, to actively just be brave enough to talk about it and say, hey, what's going on? How do we help you? Because people die every day because they didn't have the support from their families. And like I said, it's just like a case of that whole notion of Mosadi Utshwara Thipa ka bohaleng has got to end with 2020. You don't have to be speaking around for things that don't, there's things that you can be strong for as a woman, yes. For certain things, but not to be beaten up or to be used as a punching bag.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure. Okay. And then now we're moving to institutions. I've heard so many, different stories which relates to how institutions fail victims. And the stories I'll hear from survivors, but institutions failing victims. I mean, a man who's being abused going to the police station and, as we were saying earlier, gets to the police station and says, "I'm being abused by my wife. What type of man are you?" Women going to I remember I have a friend of mine, actually I think two incidents actually, of females who went to the police station to go and report matters that they're dealing with, and the police listening to them and making it seem like, you know, the way one of them put it is, it was as if she's reading an entertaining story in Drum magazine.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So from what you see, how do let's start with police. How do police do better?
When I went to the police twice in my whole life, right? The first time, I was literally told to go work things out with my husband. Second time around, I went to a relative of ours. He was a private investigator type thing, right? So I went directly to him in the hopes that by going to him, at least he's in a position of authority. So he would be the type of person who could possibly put me in the direction of the domestic violence unit, if there is a domestic violence unit, and have them do a thing for me, help them open up a case for me. And, you know, like, I thought there would be action, but then there wasn't any action. And he quite literally said, I'm down, Harriet, Ulukise, Uwele, sit down. I'm just like, there's people moving around. I'm like, what are you doing? I'm in the guys. So that was disheartening because it was like, I came to you because I needed help. You guys are there to serve and protect me. You guys are there to literally, you're supposed to be helping me out. You're supposed to be catching this guy or giving him some kind of warning or something. And you're not. Instead, you're turning me away. So where do I turn to if I can't run to you guys? You know? A friend of mine was told recently to bring her perpetrator to the police station so they can talk. I'm like, are you listening to yourselves? Are you serious? Like, okay, Larry, she should go back and say, hey, dude, so after you beat me up, I went to the police station and, well, they would like to see you. Like, what are you talking about? You know, like, so, no, seriously. So it's a real thing, and it's a big struggle. And it's not even just, it's not even a South Africa, Lesotho thing. I keep maintaining that it is an African crisis because in Namibia, I think it's Namibia. Yeah, I think it's Namibia, where the Minister of Gender Affairs has also promised at some point. I'll search up the article. I'll send it through to you.
No problem.
But she was, and it's a woman. That's the thing that was most frustrating. I was like, I'm not understanding you, because then victims were, it was possible for them to get arrested for not reporting their cases. Do you understand? I'm like, you're a victim and then you're still going to be victimized on top of it. That's why I was like, it's an African crisis. It is an African crisis because Africa's not tackling it. Africa is hoping that we can just brush it in the corner, have 16 days of activism, and hopefully it will all be gone. But we need more than 16 days because it's an everyday crisis. As people are going through this and nobody's taking it seriously. The law is not putting up or making up enough policies and rules, and not implementing enough policies and rules and putting them in place so that people can be deterred and know that if I hit my woman, I am going to jail. No questions asked. Do you understand? So it's just one of those situations where things are just let go of and let loose in a manner that at the end of the day, we're failing. Women are falling victims in big ways, and it's sad, it's scary. something more needs to be done as far as legally laws and policies are concerned. Something more needs to be done. A woman should not have to go to the police station 3 times before she's taken seriously.
Yeah.
From that moment when she calls in for police support and calls for police assistance, she has a domestic violence issue, that moment it should be addressed immediately.
Oh.
Yeah, so.
Yeah, and I can tell this one gets you really angry.
No, it pisses me off.
Right. You know, I think what pissed me off, I mean, yeah, quite a lot will piss a person off when you have a channel like this one. But when they closed the beaches, and then there was that film crew in Cape Town. I don't know if you saw the story. There was a film crew in Cape Town, and Mr. Police Minister Bheki Cele personally went there. Personally. He doesn't even have jurisdiction to do that, from my understanding. But he was personally there.
Make sure, stamping his seal of approval. Now look at the things that he's focusing on. Do you understand what I mean?
And I'm saying, but no, quite a lot needs to be done. I was like, oh, so you're gonna go and deal with a film crew at a beach?
Yeah.
And, you know. And it's not even just about, okay, dude, there's bigger things like gender-based violence to deal with. There's so many bigger things that you need to be dealing with. You know, I was watching a documentary, like a short documentary, 20-minute documentary on the violence in Cape Town, and kids are dying. The gang violence there. Yeah. Women are dying every day.
Yeah.
Yeah, but anyway, speaking of people who are doing quite a lot, there are organizations. We know organizations that are doing quite a lot, and their shelters and everything, but there's always room to do better. And I just want to know, what do you think organizations that deal with gender-based violence can do to do better?
So here's the thing. First, let's give support and recognition to those that are doing their part. And you'll find that there's a lot of institutions that are not even government backed. So these are NGOs and NPOs that are literally working out of pocket, that have set up shelters for women, that have set up resources to encourage women, to give them the skills development that sometimes a lot of women need coming out of relationships where they were previously supported financially. Now they have to come up and figure out ways to support themselves, right? There's a lot of good institutions that are coming out and helping. Financially, there's a lot of struggles, because where resources are involved, there has to be some kind of form of support financially to back and continue those services for them to carry on. But what I worry about is that as much as there are a lot that we know about, that anybody like me and you who has access to media and communications and everything else is aware of, there's a lot of women who still aren't aware of these outlets, who don't know that there is open support for them. So a lot of marketing also still needs to be done. I saw in Lesotho that they've got a WhatsApp line. I don't know who supports that WhatsApp line, but I thought it was actually quite very innovative and very good. It's a secret space that has been created for women or victims of domestic violence. Because, like, again, I think what's important is we keep mentioning that it doesn't just affect women per se. It affects everyone who's violated in any manner. Do you understand what I mean? But there's this helpline that you can actually send through a WhatsApp and say, hey, I'm going through. But now here's my thing, is that WhatsApp line I would not have found out about, because if I didn't have Facebook, for example. So I mean, I feel from a government standpoint, if government is not willing to support institutions, but they should actually be creating platforms through national radio stations, like you've got your Radio Lesotho, you've got your Ultimate FM in Lesotho, for example, where those platforms can be used, and messages and campaigns are run every single month to remind people, in case the message is not coming out loud enough, that hey, if you need to talk, SMS or send a WhatsApp, da 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 da. Do you understand what I mean? I know in South Africa there's quite a few other options where women can get in touch and get help for domestic violence issues, and just have a space to talk. And I mean, I know during lockdown it became increasingly desperate a situation, because now we were confined in spaces with our perpetrators, and you had nowhere to go. And then there's no liquor, and he's angry, and there's alcohol, and he's even more angrier. Do you understand what I mean?
Yeah.
And there was that rise in domestic violence issues. So then during that period, you saw the campaigns come through. But there's a lot more stuff that needs to be done, and there's a lot more incentive. Again, I feel government still has a role to play in supporting a lot of those NGOs, a lot of those NPOs. It's one thing for us to offer shelter. It's another thing for us to offer skills development.
Yeah.
How do we, once we've gotten women out of abusive environments, how do we then help them sustain themselves? Because now, obviously, some of them are coming from a situation where financially it's a struggle, where maybe she was just a housewife, she never had a job, or is now looking to find a job. But with the unemployment rate the way it is, and with COVID being what it is, how do we give her the tool to set up a life for herself in order to feed her children, in order to sustain herself?
Yeah.
You know, so there's a lot that still needs to be done. But like I said, a lot of those institutions, the biggest struggle is the fact that they are NGOs, NPOs, self-sustainable development projects that at the end of the day don't have the resources, don't have the funding. And we need to, as society, I suppose, as well, start becoming actively involved and find out how we can help. Volunteer if it means volunteering at a shelter. Tell your stories. Encourage women to speak up about their stories as well, so that at some point that chain has got to break.
Yeah.
And we cannot. It won't break if we aren't talking about it. It won't end if we are not contributing properly to changing the narrative.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So.
Sure.
Yeah.
Wow.
There's a lot. And we're still a way back, but I just really feel I'm encouraged though. Like I'm saying, we still got a long way to go, but I feel slightly encouraged with the fact that, especially at home, in Lesotho, you see these conversations are starting to happen. And I hope that the momentum continues. I hope it doesn't just end when 16 days of activism ends. Like it becomes an everyday conversation for a lot of people.
Yeah. I think something I'd like, this is sort of off topic, but not really, is, you know, okay, no, this is kind of off topic, but really I want to talk about, I do want to talk about COVID. And you shared a post related to COVID. And basically, you know, when you mentioned, for example, how people are stuck with their perpetrators during this time. And I mean, right now, we're back at level 3, so there's going to be more frustration. There's going to be more of the, you know, people being stuck with their perpetrators. People are losing their jobs. And, you know, I mean, we think very much about ourselves. I will say that, you know, we think very much about ourselves, especially like if we're going to talk about something like COVID. I mean, I'm going to be I'm going to be honest about it. You know, this is the second time I have Corona. Yes, this is the second time I've had Corona. The first time, first time was.
I thought once it catches you once, then you're good for a whole year and a half. You won't get it again.
See, that's where.
Is this like the second stream?
I'm not sure what it is, but here's what happened. June, July, I get Corona, cool. And everything is fine. I'm asymptomatic, no problems. And then as I'm doing my research, that's where I learned what you're saying. For a year and a half, apparently you're good.
Yeah.
And I mean, after that, I was like, I'm Scots-free. I can do whatever, you know? And yeah, I was out there living my best life. going,
Hey.
you know, yeah, I was just living my best life. And then, yeah, so what happened is, started getting symptoms. So I go get tested, and I get tested, and it turns out I'm positive again. However, before I went to go get tested, so there's a guy, his name is Big Daddy Liberty. He's here on YouTube. I love.
I know that. Okay.
Sorry?
I think I've seen his clips before, yeah.
I love, yeah. He's incredible. Anyway, so he went to go get tested, and well, he went to go do an antibody test, basically to check if he did have COVID, and obviously if his body has the antibodies, then that means he had COVID, because there's no other way for him to get the antibody, for his immune to have the antibodies. Cool. In that video where he shares an article which states that should you get the virus, you're actually, it seems like research suggests you're okay for just 4 months. And I'm like, that explains.
That makes sense then.
That makes sense. So what I was gonna say is, on my part, I became reckless. I became careless. You know. I stopped thinking about.
So you're the reason we're level 3. It's your kind.
I don't put Savannah here. Sorry, please.
Oh, okay, sorry, my bad.
But okay, jokes aside, it's behavior like that, the behavior I'm displaying, which, you know, has contributed to us getting back here. And, you know, we can, because there's the debate about whether or not, you know, lockdown was necessary. We can debate that later.
Yeah.
What's important now is, you know, now I have the virus again and I'm symptomatic. And I think what I want to really appeal, you know, to people regarding this thing is, like, it proper hit that, you know, no, people are dying.
Yeah.
People are dying. And even if you think it's just a cold, because my symptoms are, I don't have a dry cough. It's not dry. My cough is not dry. I'm not running out of breath, but there is a weird sensation up my nose. I didn't have a headache at first, but now I have a headache. Just because the symptoms are listed as XYZ doesn't mean that's exactly what they are. And I think I just want to appeal to people is what we've done, what we've been doing, we've done, but let's do better.
Let's do better. You're so right. You know, like you're very correct in saying sometimes I think also even just the information that we have, because like you were sitting on the notion of, if I've had it before, then it's going to take another year before it catches me. And in fact, initially, I remember when I first heard that, I was like, oh man, why can't I just get COVID once and then I'll be home free, you know?
Yeah.
It's okay. That was the mindset. Do you understand what I mean? But without realizing, and I don't look, I don't wish it on anyone, because I've seen the struggle that a lot of people who have not survived it have been through, you know? And it's one of those things that, yes, we know there is a recovery rate. We've got a high recovery rate, but there's people who have underlying conditions as well who are compromised, and it's up to us individually, again, to just take the responsibility to care and not be as nonchalant, because that's what you're getting right now. You're seeing a spirit and an atmosphere of, I don't care anymore. Yeah. And I feel like lockdown came, and we had the hardest lockdown in any country in the world. Like literally, South Africa was so flames. I mean, my friend is in she's overseas right now, and they went into a hard lockdown. She's like, you guys have it easy. I'm from South Africa. We can manage this. Like, she comes with all the tricks and trades of how to survive lockdown level 5, you know, because she did it already in South Africa, where they used to like, oh, this is terrible, you know? Yeah. But the point is that we need to be we need to start taking a lot more stock, like literally. If what we've lost these last couple of months was not enough to show us just how serious this disease is, then I don't know what needs to be done. And now the scarier factor is just how, for me as a parent, what makes it scarier for me is because back then, or when we were first introduced to COVID-19, we were first introduced to it, and it had a certain age group. There was a demographic. You saw it. There was, okay, so then, you know, you'd be like, yeah, okay, fine. So over 60, sorry, how do you know? But you're like, oh, Father Godly, yes, I'm still young, type situation, right? And then now this second strain that has now mutated and is now affecting younger people. Yeah. And as a parent, then I'm fighting battles with my daughter in December, who was like, yo, I just need to, because my friends, I'm like, no. Child, we are in the middle of a pandemic. This is where I look at the parents of kids who went to rage. And I'm like, why would you send your kids out to a super spreader event in the middle of a worldwide pandemic?
Yeah.
Who do we blame then when your kids come home sick? Because we're so quick to blame government for so many reasons, but then we not take the responsibility that we have as individuals on our own to make sure that we stay healthy, that we wear those masks, because in that environment where these kids are just out having fun, they are drinking, they just having, you know, living their best lives because, well, I can. And for a moment, they forget about the pandemic, forget about COVID, and feel unaffected because they aren't infected. And only does it register and become real when their friend is sick. That, oh my goodness, it's a real thing. Why do we have to burn before we get it? Yeah. Do you understand? I think that's what hurts me, and that's what scares me the most right now. Just as a parent, I look at my daughter, I look at her peers, and I feel, okay, guys, I get it. You guys actually, I mean, today's teenagers went through a very tough time. We all went through a tough time, but I think they took the biggest strain because they had to now all of a sudden online schooling and this. I think as adults, we kind of adapted better, got into the whole process of learning how to press record on Zoom. How do I swipe? Is it upright? You know, we figured that out relatively well and fast enough. But I think they took a lot of strain because there was a lot of fear. And I mean, I think as adults, it's easier for us to convince ourselves and speak against our fear. But for your kids who don't understand what's going on, who don't have a clear understanding of what do you say, are we going to die? Okay, so we're not going to die. And then people are dying, you know, like it's 2020 was a crazy year for them, you know, and I get it. They want to go out, they want to have fun, but and it's easy to say when you are my age, where you've had your fun, and quite frankly, I'm quite comfortable with just a glass of wine and a book, you know, on a Friday night. I'm not the one who's going out, you understand what I mean? But then when I was that age, it was like all about that. I get that, you know, I do. But it's just, I just really just wish that, we need to take things a lot more seriously. We need to start realizing that, you know, we still got a long way to go before a cure is found. We're talking about vaccines right now, and that's also still a process, a while away before anything can start to happen in this country, you know. But it's hectic, and it's like we just need to take care of ourselves. So it's like really crazy.
Just
but how are you feeling though? How are you feeling? How many days have you been in isolation?
Been in isolation since last week, Monday, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, something like that. So so Monday will be 2 weeks.
Okay, so you'll go for another test.
Sorry?
I'm saying you'll go for another test on Monday just to confirm your...
Gonna go for another test, and then see how things are. But stuck at home. Well, I did this to myself. But that aside, like, I think it's very unfortunate that it took this happening for this lesson to come. But like, understanding that some debates are not necessary, like when I say necessary, I mean it's not necessary to use some debates as reason to behave a certain way. And by that I mean, for example, it's not necessary just because you know, arguing about, oh, but I'm young, so I should be fine. We it was early, you know. It's we don't know this thing fully.
That's the thing. That's the thing.
Arguing that vaccine is coming soon.
Yeah.
Was lockdown necessary? Is lockdown necessary? All these we can debate and argue, but what's important is we do have a social responsibility.
Yeah.
And I think, unfortunately, I, along with a lot of people, forgot that is we have a social responsibility, and
not only to yourselves, but to society as a whole.
You know, like right now, as we were speaking, and how, you know, we mentioned how some people are stuck with their perpetrators. Some people are losing their jobs. And some of these are the abusive men who are losing their jobs. So it's just going to make them more abusive. Some of them are women who are trying to solidify.
Here's an interesting thing, though, because if you take in consideration, you would find that a lot of domestic violence cases, especially during the lockdown, came up and were first-time incidents where, remember that the person that you lived with, right, your partner, before the lockdown happened, was somebody that you only saw for a few hours at the end of the day. So you had a life before that. You were at work, and you guys would text. It was nice because then it was nice because you only saw them for that, you know. And then you come home after work, and then it'll be a catch up on how your day was. There was a routine. It was a livable, lovable routine that you and your partner had. COVID lockdown happened. Now you find yourselves staring into each other's eyes all day, every day, right? Now you start to identify and find, characteristics and things about this person that you didn't realize you didn't like, or you knew you didn't like, but now they become so much more pronounced, and now you definitely know you don't like them. Do you understand? And then come the frustrations of unemployment. Your partner loses their job. Suddenly the finances aren't there. You can't afford to pay the rent. So there's a lot of frustrations that come with that. There's not enough money for groceries, school fees, this and this and that. And then people take out their frustrations out on each other. And that's where we saw the spike during the lockdown period, because there were a lot of other external influences that were now influencing, and factors that were now influencing how people responded. We saw an increase in depression because people who, like a lot of creative people, like your artists, a lot of your artists went into major spirals of depression because they are the type of people who are used to being in creative spaces where they can share their ideas and bounce off and come up with creative things with people. And then all of a sudden they are faced with life by themselves and nowhere to spin off any of this creative energy with anyone, you know? So a lot of mental health issues started to come out from that. I mean, I did the first few weeks of lockdown by myself. I lived by myself. And I was quite comfortable with that because I was like, I live by myself. I'm my own best company. Like, come now, you know, I can do this, right? Then this one day life happened where I lost telecom network. For some odd reason, my fiber was down. I didn't have a TV, so everything I would watch on my laptop, all my series and everything else would watch on my laptop. But for the very first time, I was completely cut out from society. I had no lines of communication, and FOMO became a real thing. I had no information, and it hurt. And I cried for the very first time during that lockdown because I finally realized what it meant to be truly alone. And I didn't think I was quite ready for it. I've always enjoyed my space, but this was a first, you know. And now this is something that a lot of other people were experiencing by themselves. And then your mind starts to speak over time, you know, because I mean, yes, I live by myself. I talk to myself a lot. My neighbors think I've got roommates, you know, but no, it's generally me, because I have conversations with God. I have conversations with Thabi and say, Thabi, you need to stop. You need to figure out your life, you know? So I talked out loud to myself a lot. And all of a sudden, then there was just me, and it really freaked me out. I think that was the first time I finally understood how easy it is for a person to fall into a state of depression or complete, I don't know what the word is, but just that alone factor was very scary. Yeah. And then I decided, if we ever come out of lockdown, I'm gonna find me a roommate. And then we came out of lockdown, and I still haven't found me a roommate. But 2021 is gonna be my year, okay?
I hear you. Wow. But anyway, thank you so much. Thank you so much for doing this. I don't know how long this was, but I feel like it was long. But so much. I really hope that people took something away from this. Like everyone who's watching, I hope they took something away from this. And I do hope that, in fact, I'm sure we'll work together again.
Definitely, I look forward to it. I really do. And thank you for considering me and for making me part of your platform today. I'm gonna be on YouTube.
Thank you for agreeing. Thank you so much for agreeing. And thank you for sharing. Thank you for your message. Thank you for your strength. Thank you for being you. You inspired me. I can only imagine how other people feel, those who are perhaps going through something right now. But as I'm saying, I really hope that everybody takes something away from this. And yeah, let us continue to practice the 3 C's. And
yes. What is the 3 C's? Avoid
contact, close contact,
close.
Just stay at home. Just
investment. Yeah, simple.
Just stay at home. Yeah.
We're gonna go back and
just stay at home. But anyway, but jokes aside, really let us stay at home. Social distancing if we have to go out. Avoid close contact. And we must sanitize, clean our hands, and
also just one more thing though, Limo, just really, it's one of those things again, where we have grown-ups, adults, elderly people living with us. I know this is a time when a lot of people are with their family and are visiting whatever situation, but it's also, again, to take stock of that and be mindful of the elderly that we live with. While we are out healthy and fit, just take consideration that even in our trips outside to the stores, to use that sanitizer, to just make sure that when we come back, we shed whatever we're wearing, just in particular reference to the elderly, because they are the hardest hit by it. So just it's important that we all take stock and notice of that.
Well, again, thank you very much. I'm so grateful for everything. And to the viewers, if you have not subscribed, please consider subscribing. Please comment down below if you have anything to say. And I will link everything that we spoke about, that we, things that we didn't remember, but also articles we mentioned. I'll link all of that in the video. And yeah, thanks so much for watching. Have yourself a wonderful, wonderful 2021. It's going to be much better than 2020.
Oh, for sure.
And yeah, thank you for watching. Have a wonderful day, and goodbye.
Thanks, Livo.